They start with guilt, then they move to fear. And if you still don't obey, then you ain't black. This is the playbook, and today we're exposing it all. Let's start with the guilt trip they always lead with.
Ever wonder why the Republican Party used to have a ton of black voters? Because, yeah, believe it or not, black people, we were riding with the GOP for nearly a century. But then something changed. So let's talk about it. The Republican Party was the original party of black progress. When the Republican Party was founded in 1854, it was literally the anti-slavery party. Lincoln freed enslaved black people. The Republicans passed the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, giving black men freedom, citizenship, and voting rights. And Frederick Douglass, did y'all know he was a proud Republican? Because back then, the GOP actually fought for black progress. So, needless to say, for decades, black people were overwhelmingly Republican and stayed true to that path until the Great Depression. So, what happened? The Great Depression hit and black communities got hit the hardest. FDR's New Deal in the 1930s, Democrats finally started offering some economic relief, and black people noticed. But we couldn't be so easily swayed, so we weren't fully sold on the Democrats yet. But yeah, we took notice as to who was actually putting food on the table. And this was the first major crack in the black loyalty towards the GOP. But the real breaking point came in the 1960s, when Democrats finally embraced civil rights. And the Republicans, they made their choice. JFK and LBJ, they pushed for desegregation and voting rights. Most black people at this point had already left the GOP, but now we were all in with the Democrats. Meanwhile, Nixon's Southern strategy in 1968 catered to white voters who were angry about integration. So instead of fighting for black votes, the GOP went after the white backlash vote. Then came Reagan, and the dog whistles, they got loud. He pushed the welfare queen stereotype just to justify cutting the social programs that help black communities. He opposed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. So, needless to say, by the 1980s, the GOP, they were fully the party of white grievance politics. They weren't trying to win black votes anymore. They were just trying to suppress us. And John McCain, he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't a puppet. He shut down conspiracy theories instead of fueling them. He respected democracy even when he lost. And he didn't turn his party into a cult. And when he died in 2018, so did the last shred of dignity in the Republican Party. So, who is the Republican Party? They stand for voter suppression instead of winning elections fairly, culture wars instead of policies that help people, and owning the libs instead of governing. Black voters didn't abandon the GOP. The GOP abandoned black voters. And now, they don't even pretend to want us back. The Republican Party went from fighting for freedom to fighting against progress. And this is where we are.
They don't pretend to want us back. Wow. Well. I'm here to do my job today. So let me shut this down quickly. Lie number one, Democrats helped black people during the Great Depression. In reality, FDR's New Deal mostly excluded black workers and handed power to segregationist Southern Democrats. Lie number two, Democrats were the heroes of civil rights. In reality, more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 than Democrats. Not only would I tell you to look it up, I will also have the links to the information that I'm giving you inside of the pinned comment. Now, lie number three, I wasn't there at the time, so I don't know the climate. However, Nixon used racism to win the South. But what I learned was Nixon desegregated schools and supported affirmative action. The South didn't turn red until decades later. Lie number four, Reagan hated civil rights and attacked black people, but in reality, he signed MLK Day into law, and the welfare queen was real, not a dog whistle. Again, I wasn't there in that climate in terms of Reagan. I've heard so many mixed things about him, this, that, and the third, but I just wanted to set the record straight on that. And once again, they realize guilt isn't enough, so they try to scare you.
Over 2 million blacks, believe it or not, over 2 million blacks voted for Trump, and about 15 million didn't vote at all. Some of those blacks who voted for Trump and others who voted the couch did so because of smooth-talking pro-black imposters who said things like the Democrats are worse than the GOP. Kamala wouldn't do anything just for blacks. Some even said that voting hasn't gotten us anything in 75, 80 years.
Yeah, man, that's me. What up?
And all of that were lies.
Oh, wow.
And the consequences, Trump is now gutting black voting rights.
That's a lie.
And
I'm
pushing the
it.
SAVE Act. So now the attack is not just from voter ID laws or closing down polling stations, but from inside the Department of Justice, the agency that Congress gave the responsibility to protect voting rights. Trump gutted the DOJ's voting rights unit. It had over 30 career, very experienced civil rights attorneys. Now it's down to like 5 or 6. Most of the lawyers who protected voting rights are gone, have left the agency. They were pushed out, they were reassigned, or they were pressured to take those buyouts. And add to that the fact that the Supreme Court gutted key provisions of the Voting Rights Act back in 2013, sections 4 and 5. And that only left section 2, which is now hanging by a thread. And now the DOJ doesn't even have enough people to enforce what's left of it. This isn't by accident. This is strategy. Trump and his allies, they know black voter turnout is powerful. So they're weakening the system built to protect us. Cases defending black voters in places like Georgia and Texas, the DOJ has dropped them. Redistricting cases, racial gerrymandering cases that could have protected our political voice, abandoned. And here's the danger, the immediate, imminent danger. In 2026, we will have midterms. That's right around the corner. We'll be voting under weaker protections with fewer watchdogs, a lot less accountability. Therefore, more voter suppression. But here's the truth. We still have some power. We've been hit, and we're getting hit hard. But we don't need their permission to organize. We don't need their approval to vote in overwhelming numbers so big that they can't ignore us. Yeah, they're gutting the laws because they fear our vote. So what do? We fight harder. We organize smarter. And we definitely reject the rhetoric of those pro-black imposters. And we show up in 2026 and make sure they remember who we are. Stay woke.
So apparently I'm an imposter. And this is what they do. The fear-mongering. Trump didn't gut the Voting Rights Division. It's still active. The SAVE Act simply requires proof of citizenship to vote. Why do they make it seem like we're too dumb to have an ID? We're required to have an ID to do the most basic of things, to enter into certain clubs after certain hours, to purchase tobacco, liquor. I mean, to get a job. Most black Americans support voter ID, and the real data proves it. Again, pin comment. In Georgia, so-called Georgia, Jim Crow 2.0, record black turnout in 2022. So why do they keep calling secure elections racist and framing it around Donald Trump? But guilt doesn't work. Fear didn't work. And now they go to shame.
Have you ever noticed that when black men support Donald Trump, usually they kind of fall into a few different categories, but one of those categories is like the muscular black dude who has a shaved head. Now, not me, but who has a shaved head and who kind of comes off with a certain nasally like diction. And
Do I sound nasally? Y'all can be honest.
it almost seems as if it's a mixture between them trying to come off as like well put together and respectability politics. You know, they're kind of the pick-me's of like black culture. Hey, look at me, like I'm in shape. I take personal responsibility. I speak well. I don't speak like a ghetto hoodlum. But yeah, it's kind of always this like clean-shaven, muscular black dude. Now, I am far from a Trump supporter, but I've seen it enough times that it seems like a pattern. And
This guy's literally doing what you would do in school, making fun of a kid for reading a book. He's literally saying, hey, Trump supporters look in shape. Oh my gosh. Like they got it all put together and their diction is great. Like he's...
that it seems like a pattern. And I mean, I think it probably comes from, you know, like I said, wanting to engage in respectability politics. Hey, as long as you follow the straight and narrow, like conservatives are they don't have a problem with us blacks. If we would just stop, don't get me started. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do me a favor, just comment in the comment section and like this video. But have you ever noticed that trend amongst like black men who support Donald Trump? That kind of look, because I just happened to see a TikTok video of a guy and it just kind of registered for me.
Wow. If you watch the last few clips, if you watch all the clips actually, and you would assume that it was about the Democrat Party, you would be sitting there like, oh yeah, this is dead on. They do this when you start thinking for yourself. I'm serious. They call you an imposter, or I don't want to say the word that rhymes with broom or Uncle Tom, because you did question the script. Black men are moving right, not because of laws, not also because of laws, I meant, but because we've also been watching. We've been seeing it with our own 2 eyes. And we're done voting based on our emotions. We want results. Simple. If our value disappears when we leave, will we ever respect it to them? Now, contrast this with The Voice. They never amplify, okay?
The crazy thing about the Republican Party is that the Republican Party was the original party of black Americans. It was not taken away from us. It was simply that we were beaten and our lives were taken until we stopped supporting the Republican Party. That is why your Klansmen was created. They were created by the Democratic Party to police the polls and police black neighborhoods that was making progress. But the Democrats, they will constantly tell you that the Republican Party is the party of the Klan. They are the party of white supremacists. They are the party against civil rights. But every civil rights bill in history, the Democratic Party voted against. So tell me how y'all are our friends, bro. Tell me how y'all are for us. A lot of massacres that happened in this country against black people was political ones. Y'all look at the massacre of New Orleans. Y'all do y'all research on that and come back and talk to me. We got to get back into our party because naturally, black people values are very conservative. Anybody that grew up in a black household in the 80s and 90s, we knew that our grandparents were against abortion. We were pro-family. We were pro-Christian. You know, our grandmothers and mothers had us in church all the time. So where do all of these new things come from? The more progressive we get, the worse our community get. We try to get away from all of those traditions, and where is it really getting us? Yeah, we may have some nice houses and cars, and now we're getting an education, but overall, our community is still doing horrible. So it's time to get back into our party, y'all. We coming back.
Now, this is history that I personally was never taught. You know, the Klan was founded by Democrats to terrorize black Republicans. But the New Orleans massacre, the Wilmington insurrection, all political violence from the left, not the right. And culturally, we've always been conservative. He's right. Pro-family, pro-God, pro-life, pro-discipline. Boy, my mom used to have that belt, I'm trying to tell y'all. And I'm sure her mom and daddy had that belt. Well, I know her daddy had the belt. We're not acting white. We're just remembering who we are. And when none of those tactics worked, they flat out just say this.
Question, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Question, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
There it is. This is how little they think of your mom. You're not black unless you obey. You're not black unless you vote how they tell you. And people still think that that's the party that respects us. Make it make sense. Because you see, the goal was never to help you. It was to keep you silent and obedient, you know? But something is happening right now. You can feel it. Black voters are asking questions. You know, we're not running away, rather. You know what I'm saying? We're not running away to the other side either. We're just walking away from the loss. I really need y'all help with getting these videos out. So, unusually of me, if that's a word, please like, comment, share this to somebody who needs to hear this message. Y'all be safe, please. Go check up somebody today. You could be saving their life. And thank y'all for everything. Peace.